Hello, everybody, and good morning. Welcome to the Top Producers Show. So our mission is to educate, equip, and train servant leaders. Our vision is to create financially independent achievers, and our purpose is to help people grow. And by helping people grow, we're going over books, seminars, and different trainings that are going to be able to help you become that top producer. And we are going over the first book is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So we're on chapter 2 today, but before we go and jump into that, we need to invite some people on to here. Hope everybody is having a good day.
Brandon's here. What's up? Hope things are going well. It's 2021, right? Already.
And then before you know it, 2021 will be here and gone too. So.
Yep, unbelievably. Sure.
Although last year kind of got stolen from everybody because with the lockdown and having to change up a ton of things. Although we had a lot of good things happen last year, even though we had to change a lot of stuff, it actually turned out for the better. And it turned out okay. Because, life always likes to deal you a crappy hand every once in a while, but it's up to you what you decide to do with it. And in our case, it actually worked out pretty good. All right, there we go. And Jeff, I'm going to hand this over to you.
Okay, we're on chapter 2. Chance Brown will tap it in. Morning. Top Producer Show. So chapter 2 of Think and Grow Rich. Again, the reason we're going over this book is pretty much it was recommended by every single person that I've seen that's had massive, massive financial success. The first step towards riches, the start of all achievement, is desire. That is the first step. And it says, leave yourself no possibility or way of retreat. So burn the ships is what he's saying. You either win or you perish. There is no going back. And that's one thing that I see people stick their toe in it. They'll take 2 steps forward. They're like, well, I'll go if it's convenient. I'll go if I don't have anything. I'll go if it's not raining. You do know that 50% of people do not show up to events because of the rain. Like literally the rain. Mm-hmm. Not a thunderstorm, not an electrical storm, not a power outage. Rain. Rain will stop 50% of people. Now, here's something that I just found out. Rain is natural. It's not going away. You're going to deal with it your whole life. So just be prepared. It says every person who wins in any undertaking must be willing to burn the ships and cut out all sources of retreat. All sources of retreat. So it doesn't matter how you build it in. If your plan is to go back, you're going back. Only by doing so can one be sure of maintaining that state of mind, which is known as burning desire to win, and essential to success. Every human being who reaches the age of understanding of the purpose of money wishes for it. So, no matter when you figure it out, once people figure out that money gives you the ability to go get things you want, to go get things, travel where you want to go, buy things you want to buy, wear what you want to wear, drive what you want to drive, live where you want to live. Once people figure that out, they desire it. Which is why so many people buy lottery tickets. I mean, that's really the reason behind it. It says wishing does not bring riches. Wishing by itself. Oh, I wish I had this. It says, but desiring riches with a state of mind that becomes an obsession, and then planning definite ways and means to acquire riches, and then backing those plans with persistence, which does not recognize failure, will bring riches. So it kind of says you have to find the idea, and not only do you have to find the idea, but you have to have a plan, which is really interesting. It does not say you have to follow anyone else's plan. We talk a lot about in the industry of network marketing, direct sales, MLM. There's a lot of talk about duplication. And I heard somebody say this, and man, it made so much sense. He goes, you're not looking for duplication. Duplication is an exact replica of you. You're not looking for duplication. You're looking for replication. You're looking to replicate what you're doing. Meaning, they're going to find their own way to do it. You just want to replicate the sale. You want to replicate the volume. You want to replicate the recruiting. It just made it so much easier to understand. So there's 6 ways to desire gold and riches. And the reason he talks about gold and riches is because he wrote this like 6,000 years ago, and people were sailing around on ships, and it was still pirate time. It wasn't that old, but it was back then. The method by which desire for riches can be transmuted into financial equivalent consists of 6 definite practical steps. So he gives you the steps to do this. Number 1, fix your mind on the exact amount of money you desire. This is the number 1 problem that I see with people. They're like, well, I wish, they start out with, I wish I had more money. Yeah, I'd like to do that, and there's no, here's the word you're looking for. There's no certainty. There's absolutely no certainty in what they're saying. People give themselves away. People give away their self-esteem. People give away their commitment with their words and their body language. They give away their commitment, meaning I'm not committed. I'm not serious. This is a joke, which is also why it's hard sometimes why people don't follow you. People don't follow. They hear little things like, and I can tell this right away when I'm talking to somebody, they give themselves away in the first 3 to 5 minutes. They'll say, well, kind of, sort of, maybe. They have all these words that basically go against certainty. But when you talk to somebody who is going to make it, you won't hear any variables. You won't hear any varying, oh, well, if this happens or if that happens. It's like absolutely must. I have several friends that are in recovery. And it's something that I've seen. The people who are absolute about it recover. And they stay in recovery. Meaning, they overcome that addiction. They still have that there, but they've overcome it and they make different choices. But I've also seen the people who are like, yeah, but I'm going to do it for a short amount of time. That's dangerous. Those are my friends that I have to watch. So fix your mind on an exact amount of money. Well, how much money should that be? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It could be $10,000 a year. It could be $50,000. It could be $100,000. It could be $250,000. It could be $500,000. It could be $1 million. It could be $1 million a month. When you get into numbers beyond $1 million a month, the one thing that I see is if you want more than that, which some people do, are you in an industry that's ever developed it? Is the possibility even there? They said if you want to make $1 billion, you have to help 1 billion people. And what some people don't realize is their plan could never get to 1 billion people. I mean, it just, that's the way it is. There's certain things that won't penetrate the market that far. Sell 1 billion iPhones, you can make $1 billion, right? That makes sense, especially when you're selling them at $1,200, $1,300, whatever they cost now. So fix your mind on an exact amount of money. How much do you want? And it can't be kind of, and it can't be sort of, and it can't be, well, I just like more than what I have. Like, that's not a certain number. It's variable. And when you have variables, you're not going to get it. It is not sufficient to merely say, I want plenty of money. Be definite in the exact amount. There's a psychological reason for the definite, which we'll describe in a subsequent. I mean, one of the things is you have a system inside your head called reticular activative system. RAS, RAS. And what that does is it basically filters out everything but exactly what you want. Tony Robbins does this training where he has you look around the room and close your eyes. He says, think of everything red. Think of everything red in the room. What's red? What's red? What's red? What's red? Now open your eyes and look for red. And it's amazing how much more stuff. I mean, it's like 80% more stuff that you'll see in the room that's red by doing that. The same thing is true when you pick an exact amount you're looking for. I mean, it's pretty cool, right? I mean, if you could find money as easily as you could find the color red, how would life be? And you're like, I'm in a blue room. I'm like, get the hell out of the room. No. Definite, exact, what you want. Okay. So 2, determine exactly what you intend to give in return for the money you desire. There is no such reality, something for nothing. So what are you willing to give? The people who say, look, I'm willing to give up sleep. I'm willing to give up TV time. I'm willing to give up entertainment, temporary entertainment, for this education, for this money, for whatever you're looking for. And here's the thing, people do this on a regular basis for no money at all. Why? They'll be like, I'm absolutely positively getting this degree. You've all heard people do this. I'm absolutely positively going in debt. I'm absolutely positively going to get this degree. I'm going to get through this schooling. I'm going to get through this test. And they work, and they work, and they work, and they work, and they work. And they give up going to birthday parties, and they give up going to anniversary parties, and they give up, well, everybody gives up those parties now. But, you know, they were giving them up when everybody was going, and everybody was going out. Oh, I can't go out to dinner. I can't go to the movie. Well, nobody goes to the movie. Everybody does it at home now. But they gave up all this stuff that was entertainment-based that really didn't make a difference, you know, and most of the time. They gave it up to get that degree. But isn't it funny, they'll get the degree and then bitch, whine, and cry the rest of their life that they're not making enough money. I'm like, well, because the sale is if you have this degree, you're going to make this amount of money. And that's not how it works, unfortunately. It's not necessarily true. It was a, pre-designed lie. And I'm not saying that education is bad. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't go get an education. I'm just saying that education does not equal a certain amount of money in most cases. So establish a definite date when you intend to possess the money you desire. So not only do you have to know exactly, think about how certain you are. You have to know the exact amount. You have to know exactly what you're giving up. And now you have to know exactly when you want it. These are not variable things, and they're not wishy-washy things. 4, create a definite plan for carrying out, a definite plan, not a kind of plan, not a sort of plan. Not a, well, if it's a convenient plan, not if it's not raining, if it's not snowing. By the way, if 50% of people don't show up when it rains, 80% of people don't show up when it snows or ices. And here's the thing, it doesn't even have to be doing it. It just, the news has to tell them days in advance, I can't go out this week. Why? It's supposed to snow on Friday. I'm like, it's fucking Wednesday. People, like, that's all that stops people. Go out now, get bread, get milk, get eggs. Why is it that everybody wants to make French toast when it snows? I don't know. Create a definite plan for carrying out your desires and begin at once. Whether you're ready or not, put this plan into action. So you got to get going. The moment you decide, the moment you see it, you got to go. Why? Because there's something called the law of diminishing intent. The law of diminishing intent. The law of diminishing intent says that the longer you wait to do something, the less likely you are to do it because you have more time to come up with excuses of why you can't. 5, write out a clear, concise statement. Again, think about these words that he's using. A clear, concise statement. Not a fun story, not a limerick, not a rhyme, not a haiku. An exact, write out the clear, concise statement of the amount of money you intend to acquire. Name the time limit for its acquisition. State what you intend to give up. I would say you need to write down anywhere between 5 and 10 things. What are the 5 to 10 things that you're willing to give up? Are you willing to give up TV? Are you willing to give up time? Are you willing to give up sleep? Are you willing to give up entertainment? Are you willing to give up hanging out with friends? Are you willing to give up family events? Are you willing to give up friendships? Yeah, that one's tough. Are you willing to give up hanging out with people who aren't coming with you on the journey? That one's one of the hardest. Like the people you hang out with, you're like, well, these people aren't going to go, so I just won't talk about it around them. They'll suck you back into that black hole. And he talks about that in another chapter. So, state the exact amount of money, describe clearly the plan you intend to go to accumulate it. And 6, read your statement aloud twice a day, once before retiring at night and once rising in the morning. As you read it, see it, feel it, believe it, and you write it as if you are in possession of it already. So let's say, 2 years from now, let's say you want to make $100,000, Let's just say that. 2 years from now, I'm sitting at my desk in whatever state, city, town you're in, country. I've acquired the first $100,000. That's kind of, it's written in first person. You're seeing it happen. And the more you can see it happen, and the more you understand what it'll be like when it happens, the more likely you will get it. Catherine's here. Hello. So those are the 6 steps. It says it's important that you follow these instructions described in the 6 steps. The 6th step, you have to follow very closely. Why? It's not that it's the most important part, because if you don't know what you want, reading it out loud isn't going to help you, but it is one of the most important parts to getting what you want in the long run. Because if you're probably not going to wake up every day and be like, okay, I wanted 10 grand yesterday, but now I want 20. Okay, I wanted 20 and now I want 30, and now I want 50, and now I want to, you're not going to change the number on a regular basis until you get that number, and then you go back and do it again. But it's amazing. Some people, and I've watched this happen, some people are like, I'm going to get to 100 grand, I'm going to get to 100 grand, and they think they have to do 20,000 transactions, and all of a sudden the right deal will come up that will make them 100 grand in one deal. And that's, what I've seen certain people in real estate and different industries, that's how they start figuring out massive gains, like changing 10x time gains. And you'll see Grant Cardone talk about that. If you truly desire money so keenly that you desire is an obsession, you'll have no difficulty in convincing yourself that you acquire it. So then you have to deal with the next problem. The next problem is you've been programmed to be average. You've been programmed to accept less. You've been programmed to be happy with mediocrity. You've heard it your whole life. A lot of people have these weird rules with money. Well, the Bible says, the root of all, the Bible says money's evil. You'll hear that one. Money's evil. Rich people are evil. Rich people, they do bad things. They could have bought, 10 million homeless people houses, but instead they own a Ferrari. You'll see people do that. And I'm like, well, you had an extra $25 yesterday and you spent it on shit. You could have fed one person. It's funny how people will point the finger at other people, but the fingers are never pointing at themselves. You know what I mean? So typically people who do that, they're angry with themselves because they're not doing shit in their life. That's really what happens. Like when people start pointing fingers at everybody else, they're unhappy. They're unhappy because they're pointing out what everybody else isn't doing. The objective is to want money and to become so determined to have it that you convince yourself that you will have it. Now, here's the thing. You want to fix the whole, root of all evil, this, that, and the other thing? Great. Pick an amount of money and then give 10% of it away. That's a pretty easy concept. We see when you're giving, I don't see that being a problem. The problem is after the fact, you've spent everything, and then you want to point the finger at other people and be like, I don't have shit, so therefore I'm going to point the finger at somebody else who has a lot and blame them for my bad decisions, for my bad budgeting, for my bad money management. I'm going to blame other people. And you see this all the time. Every once in a while, I don't know if you've ever tried to write a rebuttal on Facebook and realize you were the idiot, because writing a rebuttal to an idiot makes you the idiot, right? Because you're having a conversation with somebody who's fucking stupid. Unfortunately, if you work in most places, you have these conversations on a regular basis, and you have to, because that's what work requires. The steps call for no hard labor. The steps don't call for hard labor. The hardest part is what you're going to give up. Because giving up requires discipline. Giving up requires consistency. Giving up really requires some thought process, and really giving up some programming and philosophy, which is very hard to break, by the way, because, it's been pounded into you. The average 18-year-old, think about this. The average 18-year-old has watched twice as much TV as they have been in school. Now it's probably even worse because everybody's at home. But up until 2020, the average person, the average 18-year-old, has watched twice as much TV/media, because now it's Snapchat and whatever, YouTube and blah, 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 twice as much as actually being in class in school. So do you not think that all that time, all that programming, all that TV has not taught them to be average, to be broke, to accept failure? I mean, when you really start learning the psychology behind, there's a great book called Propaganda, and it basically shows you how to brainwash people. And if you read that book, because we're going to read Propaganda on here, if you read that book, what it does is it educates you to be able to pick it out and see it. And when I started reading and I started learning how they brainwash people, and you see it like on television, and you see it in the movies, and you see it in advertising, and you see it at the store, and you hear these little phrases that are repeated over and over and over again, it's going to mess you up. And that's the goal. That's how to become a top producer. You have to be a little messed up, right? But messed up in a good way. So to apply them calls for no great amount of education. So not only does it not have a ton of labor into it to make this kind of money, it doesn't require a ton of education, meaning it doesn't require a general education. It doesn't require a degree. Why? Because a general degree gives you general knowledge, and general knowledge pays minimum wage. General knowledge pays minimum wage. For instance, if you broke your leg and you went to somebody with general knowledge, they're like, hey, your leg's broken. Thank you. That helps. I already knew that. That's what general knowledge is. Specific knowledge is going and having a physician say, well, not only did you break your tibia, but you fractured it here. It's a, non-compound fracture, and we can set it and do this. That's going to the expert. And here's the thing. Would you ever pay the first person to fix it? No. You never pay the first person. The first person is minimum wage. The person at the gas station, the person at Walmart, the person who checked you out of any convenience store can tell you your leg's broken if your leg's broken. They can usually see that. But the doctor, the specific, and not only do you go, watch this, not only do you go to a general doctor, you go to a general doctor, he's like, look, this is what's exactly broken, but he's like, I don't set that. That's not what I do. I don't cast. You're going to have to go to a specific doctor that does that. So one must realize that all who have accumulated great fortunes first did a certain amount of dreaming, hoping, wishing, desiring, and planning before they acquired it. So a lot of times you're thinking about these things. Well, I wish I had more money. That's how it starts. You won't get it with that thought process, with that philosophy, but that's where it starts. Gosh, it'd be nice. And that's a lot of times what happens to people in direct sales. They see, these people making money online, or making money from home, or making, side money from home. And they're like, wow, that's great. I wish I could do that. And then they investigate a little bit more. And people learn in one of basically 4 different ways. What they see, what they hear, what they read, and who they meet. So it's like they get these limited experiences, and all of a sudden it starts building desire and building interest, and like it goes from, well, it'd be nice, to, well, what exactly are they doing? How are they doing that? Well, is that something I could do? Would I feel comfortable doing that? Could I learn that? And what eventually happens is one of two things. Either you absolutely positively want whatever it is so badly, you're like, oh, finally, here's my shot. Or you see somebody who's so, what you consider disqualified to earn that kind of money. Because I've met people who make 6 figures, who make $250,000, who make $500,000. Typically, I haven't met anybody who makes over $1 million. But I've met people who made $500,000 that I'm like, how did that happen? Like, if they can do this, like, I mean, I have to at least be able to make $50,000, like, with my eyes closed and one hand tied behind my back, walking backwards in the rain. Like, I should be able to accomplish this, because, I mean, that person got to $500,000. You acquire enough knowledge, then you realize, okay, this is doable. It's something that, anybody can have. So, you can never have riches in great quantities unless you can work yourself into a white hot desire for the money and believe you will possess it. It says, in planning to acquire your share of riches, let no one influence you to scorn the dreamer. What it's saying is you can't hate the rich and acquire riches simultaneously. You can't point out oh, that person didn't do this and that person didn't do that. And if I had the money, I would. You can't scorn the wealthy and then acquire wealth. Why? Because your brain and your body won't allow you to acquire something you already hate. Like, that doesn't usually work out real well. If the thing you wish to do is right and you believe in it, go do it. So you have to believe, hey, this is the right thing to do. Hey, this is something that's possible to do. Hey, this is something that's planned to do. I know the exact amount. I know what it takes. I know what I need to do. Then you'll go do it. Does it work with the 6 F's, that they're talking about? Remember, family, finance, freedom, does it work with those things? Remember that all who succeed in life get off to a bad start and pass through many heartbreaking struggles. So this comes down to, well, I've had this stuff happen, so I can't do it. So you're making the excuses right off the bat based on where you grew up and where you were born. I mean, Oprah grew up in not so good of a situation. Floyd Mayweather grew up in not so good of a situation. And it goes on and on. Stories of bad starts like Oprah, like J.K. Rowling's. J.K. Rowling's, who wrote Harry Potter, right, was basically on welfare, traveling back and forth. Her kids were staying. I can't remember if they were either staying with her parents or they were staying with her ex. But she was traveling 2.5 hours back and forth from where her parents lived. I think it was her parents, because her parents were seeing her kids and then she would go get them. She was on welfare, broke, had no car. It's one of those stories, and she, started fantasizing, coming up with this world, and that's where she started writing. She started writing the book on the train, ironically, which is why the story starts with him getting on a train. Poor, broke, uneducated, bad environment, major death, people losing parents, and people losing, family members, and people losing spouses, drove a lot of people to success. It's called transmuted anger. You name it. There's a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive a thing. No one is ready for that thing until he or she believes they can acquire it. So it's like you have to see enough people do something usually, or you have to see it in your head enough times to believe, look, I know absolutely every angle of this game. It's going to happen, which is why I always suggest people doing leads if they're trying to do sales. I always suggest people doing leads if they're trying to recruit and team build, because you get to see so many different situations so fast, you believe much faster. State of mind. Okay, so open-mindedness is essential for belief. Closed minds do not inspire faith, courage, or belief. Remember, no more effort is required to aim high in life and to demand abundance and prosperity than it is to accept misery and poverty. It is, what they're saying is you're gonna have to do the work anyway. So rather than wanting 10 grand, want 100. Rather than want 100, go for $1 million. Rather than just doing $1 million, do 10 million. Why? Because typically it's gonna take a lot of the same amount of stuff. Why not shoot beyond? Most people, and this is so funny, most people shoot for survival. Why? Because your basic human instinct is consistently fighting against your dream, and your basic human instinct is built to survive. That's why people are like, oh, I'm barely paying my bills. I'm barely getting by. I never feel like I'm getting ahead. Well, no shit. Your bills are $3,000 and you make $3,600, or you make $4,000. Like, you have a plan that would never get you ahead. Most people never look at it like that. So, what about this? What if you were told, look, the way to do this is make 10 times whatever your bills are. Make 10 times whatever your bills are. How different would life be? I mean, think about it. Because, if you had 10 times what your bills were worth, then you could save 25, 30%, 40. Grant Cardone says save 40%. Save 40%, live on, 60. Meaning what's left over after you pay out in taxes and all that. So save 40 and pay out 60. But if your bills were only 10%, you could save 50 or 60% and still have plenty of money left over. But why is it that people pick professions and choose jobs that just pay bills? Why is it that we do that? because our basic human instinct is built to survive. You're like, okay, this covers my bills. It's good enough. That's how most people choose, which is financially devastating, unfortunately. And we're just about out of time. So we'll wrap this up like a burrito. It says no one is really ready to acquire the thing until she believes. It's a state of mind in which belief is not mere hope. Open-mindedness is essential for belief. Closed minds don't accept. Remember, no more effort is required to aim high. We already talked about that. It is how you see it. And then he talks about the story of these three guys at a cathedral, and one of them's like, they ask him, hey, what are you doing? He's like, well, I'm mixing this mud. And that's how the guy saw it. And the next guy, he's like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm laying these bricks. And the third guy, they're like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm building one of the greatest cathedrals in history. And it's three different people working at the exact same job with three different perspectives. They're all doing the same job. They're all getting paid the same way. But one of them sees it. And here's the thing. To find that one, typically you have to go through hundreds of people to find that one. That was just a little example that said 2/3 of the people you talk to don't get it. They don't get it. They don't get it. They don't see it. They won't be involved. You don't want them involved in what you're doing. Faith in others. Sell them on the idea of what will happen and how good it will be. Sell them on the idea of how it will work for them. What it's going to look like when they succeed. Sell them on the idea of what they will receive when they do this, when they help, when they get there. You have to see it. So this is why vision is so important. Your imagination is so important. This is why faith. So your imagination controls both faith and fear. It's the same part of the brain that creates faith and fear. Faith is, I believe it will happen. Fear is, I believe it won't happen. I mean, think about it. It's like the exact same thing. It's just in an opposite direction. So you have to control that part and work on it. So that's what we got for today. This is the Top Producer Show. If you haven't already done so, go to our page, like the page. That way you get the notifications, turn on the notifications, so that way you get these updates. We come on every day, Monday through Friday, 11:30 to 12. We're going to be going through a bunch of stuff like this, a bunch of books. So I have my notes on my phone. So with that is a wrap.
All right. And if you guys would like to go join our Facebook page, it's the Top Producer Show Facebook page. So you can go join that because each of these videos is going to be uploaded there. And you're also going to be able to get our notes from each chapter or training or whatever we're going over that day. So you'll be able to follow along and also get that as well. So with that, we will see you guys tomorrow.